Hey everyone, and welcome to the Deep Dive. Today we're diving deep into operational risk management frameworks.
ORM frameworks.
Yeah, those. We want to understand what makes a good one.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
many companies, um, they treat ORM like it's just a compliance thing, like just another box to check off.
Yeah.
But what we're interested in is how ORM can actually be like a secret weapon,
Mm-hmm.
you know, for any business.
Oh, absolutely. A lot of organizations, they really struggle with this. They get lost in all the details. They
Yeah.
think it's just about compliance.
Yeah, they miss the big picture.
Totally.
So before we talk about what makes a good framework, let's talk about all the things people get wrong.
Okay.
What are some of the big mistakes you see companies making?
I think one of the biggest ones is just overcomplicating
Yeah.
things. Frameworks that are so full of jargon, so much paperwork, people just don't get it.
You need like a PhD just to understand the
Yeah,
framework.
exactly. And then people just give up.
Yeah.
Another issue is siloed risk ownership.
Oh, yeah.
It's like risk management is just one department's problem.
Like, hey, risk management team, you guys handle all the risky stuff.
The rest of us have got spreadsheets to worry about.
Speaking of which, spreadsheets can be pretty risky.
That's true.
So when risk management is siloed like that,
Mm.
it's really hard to get everyone on board
Mm-hmm.
with like a risk-aware culture.
It creates this us versus them thing.
Yeah, it's not good.
And then there's just data overload.
Oh, yeah.
Companies have all this data. They don't know what to do with it.
It's like that saying, data rich, but information poor.
That's it.
They just don't know what it means or how to use it.
And so they just react to problems instead of preventing them.
So it's more like damage control than risk management.
Yeah, they're always putting out fires.
Right.
And it's all because they don't connect risk management to the big picture.
Yeah, they don't connect it to their business strategy,
Right. It should be part of everything the company does.
not just like its own little thing off to the side. Okay, so now that we've talked about the pitfalls,
Mm-hmm.
let's talk about what a good framework should look like. Or
Okay.
what are the keys?
Well, you mentioned simplicity.
Yeah.
And that's really important.
Mm-hmm.
The best frameworks are clear, they're concise, they're easy for everyone to understand,
Yeah.
no jargon,
Right.
actionable steps.
Mm-hmm.
Just think identify, assess, manage, and monitor.
Oh, I like that.
Yeah.
It's nice and simple.
Yeah.
Can you give us an example of how that would actually work, like in the real world?
Sure.
Mm-hmm.
Let's say you're managing a bank branch
Okay.
and you're seeing more and more cash handling errors.
Oh, yeah, that's not good.
So you could create this huge, complicated procedure with tons of paperwork.
Right.
Or you could just have people double check things before any cash changes hands.
Yeah, simple but effective.
Exactly.
Okay, but how do you make sure that everybody in the company is actually thinking about risk management?
That's where distributed risk ownership comes in.
Oh, yeah, I've heard of that.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's not just the risk management team's job.
Right.
It's everybody's job.
Yeah, I've seen this work really well in tech companies
Oh, yeah.
where they have these risk champions in each team,
Uh-huh.
people who are trained to spot and manage risks in their specific area.
Yeah, like risk ambassadors.
Yeah, exactly.
Embedded throughout the organization.
Yeah, and that really helps to create that risk-aware culture
It really does.
because everyone's involved.
Yeah, and it gives you people who really understand their area,
Right.
looking out for those risks.
Okay, so earlier you mentioned data,
Right.
and we know that a lot of companies struggle to make sense of all the data they have.
Yeah.
So how does a good framework address that?
Well, a good framework helps turn all that data into something useful.
Okay.
Instead of drowning people in reports,
Right.
it presents the information in a way that's clear and concise.
Yeah, and actionable.
Yeah, like using dashboards to highlight the key things people need to know.
Oh, so it's like giving them the information they need, but in a way that's easy to understand.
Right, and easy to act on.
And what are some examples of how companies are doing that successfully?
Well, I had a client who was just overwhelmed with reports.
Uh-huh.
We helped them create a simple dashboard,
Okay.
showed all the important risk indicators, trends, the actions they were taking,
Mm-hmm.
and it really helped their managers make better
Yeah.
decisions.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah.
And it made them more accountable too.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay. Now, you also talked about proactive risk management.
Mm-hmm.
Can you explain that a little bit more? What does that look like?
Proactive risk management is all about looking ahead.
Okay.
Anticipating future risks, not just reacting to the ones you already have.
Yeah. Right. So you're not just putting out fires, you're trying to prevent them.
Exactly. And there are some really useful techniques for doing that, like horizon scanning and scenario planning.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, they help you identify those emerging risks.
So everything from like cyber threats to changes in regulation.
To new competitors,
Right.
all those things that could catch you off guard.
So it's like having a crystal ball.
Sort of, but instead of magic,
Yeah.
you're using data and analysis.
Right. And good old-fashioned brainstorming.
Yeah, exactly.
So do you have any examples of companies that are doing this well?
Oh, yeah. I worked with this bank,
Okay.
and they had these quarterly brainstorming sessions.
Interesting.
They'd bring in people from different departments,
Okay.
and they'd all sit down and try to identify potential risks.
Oh, cool. So they're all sharing their different perspectives.
Yeah, and then they'd develop strategies to deal with those risks.
Oh, so they're being proactive
Mm-hmm.
instead of waiting for something bad to happen.
Exactly.
But how do you make sure all this risk management stuff is actually helping the company achieve its goals?
Well, that's why it's so important to link risk management to the business strategy.
Oh,
It shouldn't be a separate thing.
Right.
It should be part of every big decision.
So it's not about avoiding risk altogether.
No.
It's about understanding how much risk you're willing to take
Exactly.
to reach your goal.
Right. I worked with this fintech company,
Okay.
and they were really focused on growth.
Mm-hmm.
So we helped them link their risk appetite to their growth strategy.
Interesting. What does that mean?
So they were willing to take more risks in some areas, like innovation,
Okay.
but they also had really tight controls around regulatory compliance.
Ah, so they weren't being reckless.
No, they were calculated risk takers.
Yeah, they understood the risks, but they also saw the potential rewards.
Exactly.
That's really smart.
Yeah, it allowed them to grow really quickly,
Mm-hmm.
but still stay in control.
Okay, now before we move on, I want to talk about operational resilience.
Yeah, that's a big one.
What is it and how does it fit into a good framework?
Operational resilience is your organization's ability to bounce back from problems,
Okay.
like cyber attacks, natural disasters, pandemics, anything that could disrupt your business.
So if risk management is about preventing fires,
Mm-hmm.
operational resilience is about having a plan for when the fire breaks out.
That's a great way to put it.
Yeah.
So a good framework builds in resilience from the start.
Okay.
You identify those critical business services, figure out where they're vulnerable, and then you put things in place to make sure they can keep running.
So it's like having a backup generator.
Yeah, exactly.
So your business.
I worked with this global payment provider.
Okay.
They were developing their resilience strategy.
Mhm.
So we focused on their most important systems.
Okay.
And we did these stress tests simulating things like cyber attacks, supply chain problems.
Oh, wow. So they were really putting their systems to the test.
Yeah, we wanted to see how they'd hold up under pressure.
Yeah, it's smart.
Yeah, it helped them identify weaknesses
Hmm.
and put safeguards in place.
Okay, so we've talked about the principles,
Right.
the pitfalls,
Mm-hmm.
operational resilience. Now, are there any companies out there that are really doing this well?
Oh, yeah, there are some great examples,
Okay.
like HSBC.
Okay.
They've really stepped up their game.
How so?
They've invested heavily in their operational risk controls,
Okay.
especially after some regulatory issues they had in the past.
Yeah.
They've got these technology-driven monitoring systems.
Mm-hmm.
They've clarified who's responsible for what,
Yeah.
and they're constantly doing scenario analysis to try to anticipate future risks.
Oh, so they're really on top of things.
Yeah, they learn from their mistakes.
That's good. What about other companies?
JP Morgan Chase,
Okay.
they have a really strong framework
Mm.
that's directly tied to their business decisions.
Okay.
And they use data analytics to spot risks early on.
Oh, so they're using data to their advantage.
Yeah, they're staying ahead of the curve.
Oh,
And then there's Barclays Bank.
Oh.
They've really focused on building a risk culture.
yeah, like making sure everyone's responsible.
Right, not just a dedicated team.
So it's part of their DNA.
Yeah, exactly. They use technology and training to make sure everyone's thinking about risk.
That's great.
Yeah, and it's all aligned with their business objectives.
These are some really inspiring examples.
Yeah,
It shows that ORM can really make a difference.
it really can.
So let's get practical for a second.
Okay.
If a company wants to build its own framework, what are the key things they need to think about?
Well, first, you need a clear governance structure.
Okay.
You know who's responsible for what, who's accountable.
Right. So it's like a chain of command,
Exactly.
but for risk management.
Yeah. And you need solid ways to identify risks.
Okay.
That could be workshops, audits, data analysis, whatever works for your organization.
Right.
And once you've identified the risks,
Yeah.
you need to assess them,
Okay.
figure out how likely they are to happen and what the impact would be.
So you can prioritize.
Exactly. You don't want to waste time on things that are unlikely or that won't have much impact.
Right.
Then you need a control framework.
What's that?
It's basically a plan for how you're going to mitigate each risk.
Oh, okay. So it's your toolkit for dealing with potential problems.
Exactly. And you need to monitor things.
Yeah.
Make sure your controls are working, track your progress.
Okay.
And of course, you need to plan for operational resilience.
Oh, right. Because even with the best controls, things can still go wrong.
Yeah, you need to be prepared for those unexpected events.
So you're not just planning for what you know might happen.
Yo.
You're planning for the unknown.
Exactly. And finally, you need to be committed to continuous improvement.
Oh, right.
Always looking for ways to make your framework better.
So it's not a one-time thing.
No, it's an ongoing process.
Yeah, because the risks are always changing.
Exactly. And your business is changing too.
Okay, so for our listeners out there, how can they know if their company's framework is any good?
Well, there are a few key questions they can ask themselves.
Okay, like what?
First, are they being proactive about risk?
Okay, so are they planning ahead?
Yeah. Or are they always reacting to problems?
Right.
Second is risk management part of their everyday decision-making?
Yeah, like is it baked into their culture?
Exactly. And third, do their employees understand their role in managing risk?
So it's not just the risk management team's job.
Right. It's everyone's responsibility.
Okay, what else?
Are they actually using the insights from their risk data?
Oh, so are they taking action?
Yeah, not just collecting data for no reason.
Right.
And can their framework adapt to new risks?
Yeah, because the world's changing all the time.
Exactly. And finally, are they prepared for disruptions?
Oh, yeah, like those big unexpected events.
Right. Do they have a plan B?
Okay, so if a company can answer yes to most of those questions, they're probably on the right track.
Yeah, they're doing pretty well.
But if they're answering no to a lot of them,
then they might need to rethink their approach.
Yeah, they might need to make some changes.
Exactly.
This is great.
Yeah.
I love this self-assessment idea. It gives our listeners a really practical way to think about their own companies.
Yeah, and hopefully it'll help them identify some areas where they can improve.
Now, before we wrap up this part of the deep dive,
Okay.
let's talk about what success actually looks like.
Okay.
Because it's not just about avoiding losses, right?
No, it's about creating an organization that's resilient,
Okay.
that can handle challenges, and even thrive in the face of uncertainty.
Yeah, so it's about being adaptable.
Exactly, and being prepared for anything.
So it's not just about being risk-averse.
Yeah.
It's about being risk-aware and even risk-savvy.
Yeah, you want to be able to use risk to your advantage.
Now we're talking.
Yeah.
Okay, we're going to take a short break, but when we come back,
Okay.
in part 2, we'll delve deeper into what success looks like and how to create that truly resilient organization.
Sounds good.
So stay tuned.
Okay.
Welcome back to the deep dive. Before the break, we were talking about what real success looks like in operational risk management.
And how it's not just about avoiding those losses.
Right, it's about being able to adapt and thrive.
Even when things get tough.
So how can you tell if a company is actually succeeding with ORM? What are some of the signs?
Well, one of the most obvious is a reduction in incidents and disruptions.
Yeah, makes sense. Fewer fires to put out?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Then you have more time and resources to focus on other things.
Right, like strategic initiatives.
Yeah.
What else?
Faster response times.
Oh, yeah.
When a new risk pops up.
Being able to react quickly.
Exactly. A good framework helps you spot those threats early on.
So you can minimize the damage. So it's not just about being tough.
No.
It's about being agile.
Right. You need to be able to move quickly.
Adapt to change.
Exactly.
By health.
Better decision making.
Oh, yeah.
When you have good risk insights, you can make more informed decisions.
Yeah, you're not just shooting from the hip.
Right. You're weighing the risks and the rewards.
Making smart choices. And then there's that risk-aware culture we talked about.
Yeah, that's so important.
Everyone in the company understanding the importance of risk management. Everyone being involved.
It's like a built-in safety net.
Yeah, everyone's looking out for each other.
And finally, operational resilience.
Right, being able to keep those critical services running.
Even when there are disruptions.
Exactly. Minimizing downtime, ensuring business continuity.
It's like having that backup generator we talked about. Okay, so those are the signs of success.
Yeah.
But now I want to talk about tailoring your approach to your specific industry.
Right, because one size doesn't fit all.
Yeah, you've worked with lots of different companies.
across lots of different sectors.
What are some of the things companies need to think about when it comes to industry-specific frameworks?
Well, every industry has its own unique risks.
Yeah, like in financial services.
Mhm.
Regulatory compliance is huge.
Oh, yeah. One wrong move.
Mm.
And you could be facing massive fines.
Or even legal action. Exactly. So
Yeah.
in that industry, your framework needs to be really strong on compliance.
Makes sense.
But in tech, it's all about speed and innovation.
Right.
Being able to adapt to new technologies.
New market trends.
Exactly. So you might be willing to take on more risk in that industry.
To stay ahead of the competition.
Yeah.
So it's all about understanding the risks that are most important for your industry
Mm-hmm.
and building your framework around those.
Exactly.
And it's not just about the industry as a whole.
No.
It's about your specific company,
Right.
its size, its structure, its goal.
And its risk appetite.
Yeah. How much risk are they comfortable taking on?
Exactly. A big company might have a more formal approach,
Mm-hmm.
while a startup might be more flexible.
Right.
And a company with a high-risk appetite
Yeah.
might be okay with more risk than a company that's more cautious.
So it's all about finding that balance.
Yeah, between mitigating risks
Mm-hmm.
and pursuing opportunities.
Okay, so for our listeners who are thinking about building their own framework,
Mm-hmm.
what are some practical steps they can take?
Well, first they need to really understand their own risk profile.
Okay, what does that mean?
It means knowing what risks they face, where they're vulnerable,
Mm-hmm.
what their goals are,
Okay,
how much risk they're willing to take.
so really digging deep.
Yeah, getting to know their company inside and out.
Okay, and once they have that understanding,
Then they can start thinking about the specifics of their framework.
yeah, like the governance structure,
Mm-hmm.
the risk identification tools,
Monitoring processes.
right, and don't forget about operational resilience.
Oh, yeah, that's crucial.
Make sure you have a plan for when things go wrong.
Exactly.
And remember, keep it simple.
Yes.
Keep it practical.
Mm-hmm.
Keep it aligned with your goals.
A framework that's too complicated won't work.
No, people will just ignore it.
Exactly.
Yeah, remember, building a framework is not a one-time thing.
No, it's an ongoing process.
Yeah, you need to be constantly reviewing it,
Mm-hmm.
updating it,
Making sure it's still relevant.
because the risks are always changing.
And your business is changing too.
Okay, so implementation.
Right. That's the hard part.
Yeah, you can have the best framework in the world,
Hmm.
but if you can't implement it effectively.
It's not going to do much good.
So what are your tips for successful implementation?
We'll start small.
Okay.
Don't try to do everything at once.
Right.
Focus on the most critical risks,
Mm-hmm.
the most important controls.
Okay, so prioritize.
Exactly, and get buy-in from everyone.
Oh, yeah, that's important.
Make sure people feel like they're part of the solution,
Right.
not just being told what to do.
And be flexible.
Yes.
Things are going to change.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to make mistakes.
Yeah, be open to feedback.
Be willing to learn.
Exactly, and don't be afraid to adjust your approach.
Great advice.
Yeah, so to recap,
Start small.
get buy-in
Be flexible.
and keep learning.
We're going to take another quick break.
Okay.
But when we come back in part 3,
Mm-hmm.
we'll explore some of the more advanced concepts in ORM
Sounds good.
and talk about how to really take your risk management program to the next level.
Okay,
Don't go anywhere.
we'll be right back.
Welcome back to the Deep Dive. We've covered a lot of ground in our exploration of operational risk management frameworks, but I feel like we've just scratched the surface.
Oh, yeah, there's always more to learn.
There is.
It's always evolving.
Right.
And the best companies, they're always looking for ways to improve.
So for companies that are already doing a pretty good job with ORM,
Mm-hmm.
what are some of those next level strategies?
Well, one area that's really hot right now is technology.
Oh, yeah.
Using things like AI and machine learning.
Oh, wow. AI for risk management. That
Yeah.
sounds really interesting.
Yeah, it's got huge potential.
So how are companies actually using these technologies?
Well, AI is great at analyzing huge amounts of data,
Okay.
finding patterns and trends. Yeah.
Things that might point to emerging risks.
Okay.
And it can also automate some of the tasks,
Oh, like what?
like monitoring controls, generating reports.
So it's like having a risk analyst who
Mhm.
never sleeps.
Exactly.
Wow.
And machine learning is great for building predictive models.
Oh,
So you can actually anticipate future risks.
Oh, so you're not just reacting to what's already happened.
Oh, you're trying to predict what might happen.
Then prevent it.
Exactly.
That's incredible.
And the best part is, these technologies are always learning.
Oh, yeah.
The more data you feed them,
Mm-hmm.
the better they get.
So it's like they're constantly getting smarter.
Yeah, exactly.
It's really exciting.
Yeah, it's changing the game.
It is. But even with all this amazing technology,
Mm-hmm.
we still have to remember the human element.
Oh, absolutely. Technology is just a tool.
Yeah.
It's the people who use it that really matter.
So it's not about replacing humans with robots.
No. It's about using technology to help humans make better decisions.
Exactly.
That makes sense.
You still need people who understand the risks,
Right.
who can look at the data and make judgments.
Based on their experience.
Exactly.
Big.
So that's why continuous learning is so important.
Absolutely. We have to keep learning and growing.
Mm-hmm.
Now, before we wrap up our deep dive,
Okay.
I want to talk about something that's really relevant today.
What's that?
The interconnectedness of risks.
Oh, yeah. It's like everything's connected these days.
It is. What happens in one part of the world
Mm-hmm.
can impact something completely different.
Totally. It's like that butterfly effect.
Exactly. A small change here.
Can cause a big change there.
So how can companies account for this in their ORM frameworks?
Well, they need to take a more holistic view.
Okay, what does that mean?
It means looking at how risks are connected,
Okay.
how they might interact.
So you're not just looking at individual risks in isolation,
No, you're looking at the big picture.
right? The whole system.
Exactly.
And that's especially important with all the complex challenges we're facing today.
Oh, yeah, like climate change, geopolitical instability, cyber threats.
Right. All these things are connected.
Yeah, they all influence each other.
So we need to be prepared for anything.
We do, and that's really what ORM is all about.
It is
Helping companies be more resilient
more adaptable.
so they can thrive in this crazy world.
I love that.
Yeah.
Well said.
Thanks.
Well, we've reached the end of our deep dive into operational risk management frameworks. I want to thank our expert for sharing their insights.
It's been a pleasure.
It really has.
I hope it's been helpful.
I'm sure it has.
Yeah.
And all of you listening, thank you for joining us. Remember, risk is everywhere, but so are opportunities.
That's right.
And by being proactive and strategic with your risk management, you can turn those risks into opportunities for growth and success. Until next time, keep diving deep.